Women don't remember the man who's simply nice. They remember the man who makes them feel something they can't shake off. And once you understand this, you'll never approach relationships the same way again. Here's the situation most men face. They try so hard to be reliable, predictable, even perfect. They think being endlessly available or constantly agreeable is the way to win a woman's memory and affection. But the truth is, that kind of behavior often gets forgotten. It blends into the background. You become safe, but forgettable. What women never forget are the moments that strike deep, the ones that leave an emotional imprint. It could be the silence that makes her wonder what you're thinking. It could be the calm standards you live by that she can't bend. It could even be the moment you walk away, not in anger, but in control, leaving her replaying that instant over and over. These are not games, they're signals of strength. Signals of a man who doesn't just react, but chooses how he shows up. And that's where Stoicism comes in. By mastering yourself, by controlling your words, your reactions, your boundaries, you create experiences that stay with her long after you're gone. She doesn't forget the impact, because impact is rare. In today's video, you'll discover exactly what makes a man unforgettable in a woman's mind, and how to embody it without pretending, without chasing, and without losing yourself. Let's get into it. Number 1. Walk away and leave her thinking. There's a moment that every man has to understand. Walking away isn't weakness, it's unforgettable power. Most men are terrified of leaving because they believe distance means losing her. They think that if they're not present, texting, explaining, or proving themselves, she'll forget. But the opposite is true. It's the man who chooses to leave without a dramatic explanation, without a fight, and without begging, who stays in her memory the longest. Take Michael, 42, a business owner in Chicago. He was dating Laura, 39, a marketing executive. Things were going well until small arguments started creeping in. Laura expected Michael to argue back, to defend every point, to keep the back and forth alive. But one night, instead of reacting, Michael simply stood up, gave a calm smile and said, "I'm not doing this right now." He walked out, leaving Laura sitting there in silence. That moment burned into her mind. Not because he shouted, not because he tried to win, but because he chose to leave her wondering. What was he thinking? Why didn't he fight back? Did he stop caring, or was he stronger than the drama itself? That silence spoke louder than words. This works because human psychology hates unfinished stories. When you step away without giving every answer, you leave an open loop in her mind. She replays the moment over and over, filling in the blanks with her own imagination. And imagination is always stronger than reality. She doesn't just remember what you did, she remembers how unsettled she felt when you chose silence over noise. Women don't forget this because it challenges their expectations. Most men will argue, most men will chase, most men will plead to be understood. But when you calmly walk away, you break the pattern. You show her that your presence is a choice, not a guarantee. And that realization plants a seed of scarcity that makes her value your time more. Now, let's be clear, this isn't about ghosting or punishing. It's not about disappearing for weeks to play games. It's about choosing dignity over drama. The Stoics taught this centuries ago. Epictetus said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. When you walk away, you're showing freedom. You're proving that your peace of mind is not for sale in every petty argument." Think about it. The man who can't walk away becomes predictable. He'll always argue, always explain, always seek approval. But the man who can leave, even for a night, sends a message she'll never forget. My time is valuable. My energy is mine. I don't waste it on noise. That is what sets you apart. And here's the best part. Walking away doesn't end things. More often than not, it makes her chase. Because she wants to close the loop. She wants to know what you're thinking. She wants to pull you back into the game you refuse to play. And in that moment, the power shifts. She's remembering you not for what you said, but for the control you showed. If you've ever walked away and left someone thinking about you long after, write this in the comments. I walk away. And remember, leaving isn't just distance, it's presence with impact. And as you'll see, there are even deeper ways to stay unforgettable. Number 2, silence that haunts her mind. If there's one thing human psychology can't handle, it's silence. We're wired to fill in the blanks. When someone doesn't respond, when there's no reaction, the mind begins to race. That's why silence is unforgettable. It doesn't give her closure, and without closure, she keeps thinking of you. Most men, when they sense tension, overcompensate. They text paragraphs, they explain their side, they send follow-up messages, trying to tie everything up neatly. But neatness is forgettable. What sticks is the pause, the gap, the unanswered moment that lingers. When you withhold words, you invite her imagination to take over. And her imagination is far more powerful than anything you could have said. Why does this matter? Because when a man can sit calmly in silence, he's sending a signal of emotional control. The Stoics knew this well. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best answer to anger is silence." That doesn't mean avoidance. It means discipline. It means you're strong enough not to give away your peace just because someone demands it. And here's the truth. Silence makes her doubt her own influence. If every other man reacts, defends, or chases, but you don't, she starts asking herself questions. Did she lose her hold on you? Did she go too far? Why aren't you scrambling to prove yourself like the rest? That uncertainty is what haunts her. She remembers not because you gave her more, but because you gave her less. This isn't about ignoring her forever. It's not about being cold or distant for the sake of control. It's about using silence with intention. In moments of conflict, in moments of testing, in moments when emotions run high, choosing silence over reaction shows that you own yourself. And that self-ownership is rare. Rare things get remembered. Think of it this way. Silence is a mirror. Whatever she feels, she sees reflected back. If she's angry, your silence makes her face that anger. If she's insecure, your silence amplifies that insecurity. If she's curious, your silence makes that curiosity grow. Words would end the moment. Silence stretches it out. That stretching is what makes it last in her memory. The impact isn't instant. At first, she might feel frustrated, maybe even angry at your lack of response. But hours later, days later, that same silence is still in her mind. She replays what she said, wonders why you didn't react, questions if she misjudged you. That's the echo of silence. It doesn't fade quickly. It grows stronger the longer it lasts. The power of silence also protects you. By not rushing to speak, you avoid saying things you'll regret. You avoid being pulled into her emotional storm. You stay grounded. Seneca once said, "Silence is a lesson learned through life's many sufferings." In other words, the ability to hold back your tongue isn't natural. It's a skill forged through discipline. And it's a skill that sets you apart. When you master silence, you become unforgettable. Because she'll never be able to forget the man who didn't give her every answer, who didn't react like the rest, who left just enough space for her to keep thinking. Silence haunts, not because it's empty, but because it's full of possibilities. If you've ever felt the power of staying quiet when every part of you wanted to speak, write this in the comments. I choose silence. And remember, sometimes the loudest message you'll ever send is the one you never speak. Number 3, jealousy she can't control. Jealousy is one of the most unforgettable emotions you can leave behind in a woman's mind. It's raw, it's consuming, and it's almost impossible to ignore. And here's the thing, when you understand how to let it work for you, without being manipulative or toxic, you'll see why women never forget the man who can stir this feeling inside them. Let's be clear, jealousy isn't about games or making her feel insecure for no reason. It's about living in such a way that your presence has value. When you show that other people respect you, enjoy your company, or even desire your attention, it triggers something deep in her psychology. Suddenly, she realizes you're not just her world, you're a man with options. And that realization makes her hold on tighter, even if she doesn't admit it out loud. Take Robert, 47, a financial advisor from Denver. He'd been casually seeing Emily, 44, a nurse. They enjoyed each other's company, but Emily assumed Robert was always available. One night at a dinner party, Robert was chatting with another woman, Jessica, 41, just about travel and career goals. He wasn't flirting, he wasn't being inappropriate. But Emily noticed how engaged Jessica was, and how effortlessly Robert carried himself in the conversation. That night, Emily found herself thinking about Robert differently. Not because he tried to provoke her, but because she saw what other women could see in him. For the first time, she felt the sting of jealousy. And that jealousy made Robert unforgettable. This works because jealousy forces attention. When a woman feels that spark of competition, her mind locks in on you. She replays what she saw. She measures her place in your life. She questions whether she's giving enough. It's not something she can easily control. It's wired into human psychology. The thought of losing what she values makes her value it even more. The key is subtlety. Men who try to flaunt attention or intentionally provoke jealousy usually come off as insecure. But the man who simply lives confidently, who interacts naturally, who doesn't bend himself into a shell when others notice him, that man makes a lasting impact. He doesn't have to prove anything. His presence speaks for itself. The Stoics remind us of this balance. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." The lesson here is that you don't live for validation, you live with integrity. When you carry yourself with quiet confidence, people notice. And when she sees others noticing, jealousy arises on its own. You didn't force it. You didn't play a game. You simply lived authentically, and that created an emotional response she won't forget. Another reason jealousy is unforgettable is because it sparks desire. Desire thrives in scarcity. When she feels that others want what she has, the value of your attention increases instantly. That's why Robert's calm, confident conversation at the dinner party hit Emily so deeply. He didn't pull away from her. He showed that he had a life that others respected. That small, subtle display was enough to make her mind race long after the night ended. So here's the truth. Women never forget the man who awakens jealousy inside them. Not the destructive kind, but the natural, undeniable kind that comes from realizing his value is recognized beyond their relationship. And once that switch is flipped, it's hard to turn off. If you've ever seen how jealousy changes the way someone looks at you, write this in the comments. I sparked desire. Because sometimes the most powerful memory you leave behind isn't from what you give, it's from what she fears losing. Number 4. Proof she feels when others want you. There's a powerful truth in relationships that most men overlook. Nothing convinces a woman of your value more than seeing it reflected through the eyes of others. When she realizes that other people admire you, respect you, or want to be around you, it validates what she already feels and often intensifies it. This is what psychology calls social proof, and it's one of the strongest forces shaping human attraction. Think about it. If you tell a woman you're valuable, it can sound like bragging. If you constantly reassure her that you're loyal, interesting, or confident, those words eventually lose weight. But when she sees people drawn to you without you trying, when she notices how your presence lights up a room, how conversations naturally flow toward you, or how others quietly compete for your attention, that's proof she can't deny. It's not just your opinion of yourself, it's the evidence written into your life. The Stoics understood this principle in their own way. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. That line speaks directly to this idea. Don't tell people who you are, show them. Live in a way that demonstrates your strength, your composure, and your value. When you embody these traits, others will notice, and she will feel it more strongly than if you ever tried to convince her with words. The beauty of social proof is that it works silently. You don't have to point it out. In fact, pointing it out usually kills the effect. All you need to do is keep living with confidence and standards. She'll see how others respond to you, and that's enough to make her memory of you stick. Because once she associates you with being wanted by others, she won't be able to forget that. And it's not just about admiration, it's about scarcity. If others want your time and energy, then your time and energy are valuable. She realizes she doesn't have unlimited access, and that realization makes her treasure it more. Scarcity creates urgency, and urgency creates desire. This is why women never forget a man who carries social proof with him. It's not arrogance, it's not showmanship, it's quiet evidence of your worth. Of course, there's a balance. Social proof should never be about making her insecure or playing games. It's not about flaunting or trying to make her jealous. It's about showing, through your actions and your presence, that your value is real. A man who is respected at work, admired by friends, or trusted in his community doesn't need to say a word. His life does the talking. And here's the unforgettable part. Once she sees proof of your value through others, it's impossible for her to erase it. It becomes a frame through which she views you. Even in moments of doubt or conflict, she'll remember that you're not just a man in her world, you're a man the world itself respects. That kind of memory doesn't fade quickly. Seneca captured this when he said, "Most powerful is he who has himself in his own power." When you focus on living well, on mastering yourself, and on building a life others naturally admire, social proof follows. And when social proof follows, so does attraction that lasts. If you've ever experienced the power of others confirming your value without you saying a word, write this in the comments. I live proof. And don't miss what's coming next, because the next idea reveals why attraction doesn't just depend on admiration, it depends on the tension that keeps her locked on you. You'll want to hear this. Number 5. Tension that keeps her hooked. One of the strongest emotions you can leave behind in a woman's mind is tension. Not the kind that comes from arguments or drama, but the subtle tension that builds when you don't give everything away at once. It's that invisible current between two people that keeps her hooked, because she never feels like she's fully figured you out. Tension comes from contrast. It's the difference between being warm and pulling back, between being open and then mysterious, between showing interest and holding just enough of yourself in reserve. When you create this kind of rhythm, she feels drawn to you in ways she can't explain. It's not about playing games, it's about living with intention. Take Michael, 52, from Chicago. He'd been dating Sarah, 46, for a few months. Michael was confident but not overbearing. When they were together, he was present, funny, and engaging, but he never rushed to fill every silence. He never answered texts the second they arrived. He let moments breathe. Sarah confessed to her friend that she couldn't stop thinking about him, not because he was chasing her non-stop, but because he made her wonder. That space he created left her hooked. This works because tension thrives in the unknown. When you don't reveal every thought, every feeling, or every move, she begins to imagine. And often, her imagination paints you as even more captivating than you realize. The human mind fills gaps with curiosity, and curiosity keeps her attention locked. Psychology backs this up. Desire increases when the outcome is uncertain. If she knows exactly when you'll call, exactly how you'll respond, and exactly what you'll say, the interaction loses energy. But when there's an element of unpredictability, when she doesn't know if tonight will bring comfort, excitement, or mystery, that's when her emotions intensify. Stoicism teaches us the value of self-restraint, and this applies directly to tension. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." By not rushing to satisfy every urge to explain, to text back, or to fill silence, you display mastery. That restraint creates tension, and tension makes her remember you long after you've walked away. Another layer to tension is physical presence. Think about a conversation where you lean in slightly, then lean back, or a hug where you hold her just a little longer than expected, then let go. These small contrasts create sparks. She feels your attention, then she feels its absence, and the shift keeps her emotions alive. Sarah couldn't stop replaying her evenings with Michael because of these little contrasts. He would look at her intently when she was sharing something, but then shift his gaze away at the right moment. He would laugh with her, then pause and let silence do its work. Those pauses weren't empty, they were filled with electricity, and that electricity is what made him unforgettable. The danger for many men is thinking they have to either smother a woman with attention or pull away completely. The truth is, the sweet spot is in between. Too much availability can kill attraction, but too much distance can push her away. Tension lives in balance. It's the middle ground that makes her feel both secure and curious. And here's the secret. Women never forget the men who make them feel this mix. Tension becomes a memory. It lingers because it's not complete, it's open-ended. When you walk away after creating tension, she doesn't feel closure. She feels the need for more. That's why she replays it in her head. So if you've ever left someone thinking about you long after you were gone, drop this in the comments. I create tension. And stay tuned, because what comes next will take this even deeper. If tension is what keeps her hooked, the next step reveals how your standards turn that hook into respect she can't ignore. Number 6. Standards she must respect. There's something magnetic about a man who doesn't bend just to please. A man with clear standards commands respect before he even asks for it. When you have principles that guide your actions and you live by them consistently, you create an invisible line that women feel the moment they step into your world. And here's the truth. Women never forget the men who made them rise to meet those standards. Standards are not about being harsh or controlling. They're about knowing what you will accept and what you won't. Too many men fall into the trap of lowering their expectations just to avoid conflict or to keep a woman around. The irony is, the lower your standards, the less respect you get. What you tolerate defines the quality of your relationships. Think about it. If you allow constant lateness, broken promises, or disrespect, you teach her that it's okay. But when you calmly hold your ground, when you let actions speak louder than words, she realizes that being close to you comes with responsibility. That realization shifts her perception. You're no longer just another man, you're a man she has to respect. The Stoics knew this deeply. Epictetus taught, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. That is the essence of standards. You decide who you are, and then you align your choices, your relationships, and your habits with that identity. This quiet discipline is powerful because people sense it without you having to explain it. Psychology also shows us that boundaries and standards increase attraction, not decrease it. Scarcity works here too. When your time, attention, and affection are only given under the right conditions, they gain value. She doesn't want to lose access, so she rises to meet you. That rise becomes a memory. Even years later, she won't forget the man who refused to lower himself just to keep her comfortable. And notice this, true standards don't require shouting or ultimatums. They are revealed in calm actions. You don't chase after someone who disrespects your time. You don't reward behavior that breaks your trust. You don't argue endlessly trying to prove your worth. You simply step back, and your silence becomes the lesson. Respect grows not because you demanded it, but because you embodied it. The effect is lasting. When a woman remembers a man, she rarely recalls every word he said. What she remembers is how he made her feel. And nothing makes her feel more challenged, more captivated, and more drawn in than realizing she had to stretch herself to meet his standards. That kind of growth leaves an imprint. There's also a deeper attraction here. When you hold standards, you show that you're not afraid to be alone. You don't cling, you don't compromise your values for short-term comfort. That independence is unforgettable, because most men do the opposite. Most men bend, and in doing so, they break their own frame. The man who stands firm stands out. Seneca once said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." Lowering your standards wastes life. It wastes your time, your energy, and your chance at something greater. The man who protects his standards protects his life. That's why women respect him long after he's gone. So when you think about what makes you unforgettable, remember this: it's not just charm, mystery, or desire. It's the unshakable frame of a man who knows what he stands for. And when she realizes that she has to rise to your level to be in your world, she will never forget it. If you've ever held your standards firmly and felt the shift in how someone treated you, write this in the comments. I hold firm. And don't go anywhere, because up next we'll look at something just as powerful. It's not about the standards you set, but the boundaries you enforce without ever raising your voice. Number 7. Boundaries enforced without a fight. Boundaries are not about arguments, raised voices, or dramatic ultimatums. They're about quiet strength, the kind of strength that shows without needing explanation. Women never forget a man who enforces his boundaries calmly, because it sets him apart from the crowd. While most men either cave in or explode under pressure, the man who stands his ground with composure becomes unforgettable. Let's look at a real example. David, 47, had been dating Laura, 44, for a few months. One night, she showed up to dinner more than an hour late, without a call or explanation. Most men would either get angry and start a fight, or shrug it off and accept it. David did neither. He finished his meal, paid the bill, and told her kindly but firmly that his time was valuable. He didn't scold her, didn't raise his voice. He simply said, "I won't wait like this again." Then he left. Laura was stunned. That calm, steady response hit harder than any argument could. She never made the mistake twice. This is the essence of boundaries. They are not about control, they're about self-respect. And when a woman sees you respect yourself enough to act without hostility, she respects you too. Psychology shows us that people respond more strongly to consistent action than to emotional outbursts. Your calm decisions become lessons she carries with her. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Enforcing boundaries without anger is a living example of that principle. You don't control her behavior, you control your response, and in doing so, you keep your power. What makes this unforgettable is the contrast. Most men believe they have to shout or threaten to be taken seriously. When you calmly step back, you prove you don't need chaos to enforce your limits. That quiet control makes her take you seriously in a way noise never could. Laura later admitted to David that his calm firmness made her reevaluate her own patterns. She respected him more, not less, because of it. And this is why boundaries enforced without a fight stay in a woman's memory. They show her that you are not a man she can push past. You are a man she has to meet on your terms. There's also an element of attraction here. A man who can enforce boundaries without fighting shows that he is not dependent on approval. He doesn't need her agreement to stand by his values. That independence is magnetic. It communicates strength in a way no words can. But here's the key. Boundaries are not ultimatums. Ultimatums are threats. Boundaries are actions. If you don't want constant disrespect, you don't complain endlessly. You simply stop engaging in situations where it occurs. If you want honesty, you reward it with trust. If dishonesty shows up, you withdraw your energy. No fight, no drama, just consistent action. Women remember these men because they leave a mark of discipline. When you don't fight, but you don't bend either, you become a man she has to respect. And once she respects you, attraction follows naturally. So if you've ever walked away quietly but firmly, and it changed how someone treated you, drop this in the comments. I stand firm. And don't miss what's coming up next. If boundaries are what make her respect you, the next part reveals the hidden force that makes her think about you when you're nowhere near. Number 8. Strength shown through calm. There's a kind of strength that doesn't roar. It doesn't throw fists, raise its voice, or demand recognition. It's the kind of strength that sits in silence, steady, unshaken, even when everything around it trembles. Women never forget a man who carries this strength, because calmness in the face of pressure is far rarer and far more powerful than aggression. Think about the world we live in. Stress, arguments, conflicts, they're everywhere. Most men, when they're tested, react emotionally. They lash out, get defensive, or crumble under the weight of tension. But the man who can stand still, breathe, and respond with composure instantly sets himself apart. He becomes an anchor in a storm. And that kind of presence doesn't just attract, it imprints itself on memory. The Stoics spoke about this often. Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. This is the essence of calm strength. You don't control the chaos of the world, but you control yourself. And when you demonstrate that control, it communicates something far deeper than words. You are steady, reliable, and unshakable. Psychology backs this up. Emotional regulation, your ability to keep calm under pressure, is seen as a sign of leadership and dominance. Not dominance through fear, but through stability. When you don't flinch, others trust you more. They feel safer around you. And women, especially, are drawn to the man who radiates that safety. Imagine being in a heated argument, not raising your voice, not losing your composure, just calmly stating your truth and standing firm. That moment will echo in her mind long after the noise fades. Because it's rare, it's unforgettable. Calmness also carries another hidden message: restraint. Anyone can explode, anyone can shout or react instantly, but restraint takes discipline. It takes mastery over yourself. And that mastery is exactly what Stoicism is all about. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." When you embody this, she doesn't just see calmness. She feels the depth of power behind it. And here's the irony. Many men think calmness is weakness. They believe they need to show force to prove they're not to be messed with. But in truth, calmness is the ultimate display of power, because it shows you're not threatened. You don't need to prove anything. You're already in control. That confidence is magnetic and unforgettable. Another reason this kind of strength sticks in her memory is because it creates contrast. The calmer you are, the more heightened the chaos around you feels. And in that contrast, she sees your true character. Anyone can hold their frame when life is easy, but the man who stays calm when pressure mounts, that's the man she won't forget. Calm strength also builds trust in ways words never can. When you respond with patience instead of anger, when you show stability instead of panic, you become someone she knows she can lean on. And trust, once earned through calmness, creates a bond that lingers long after the moment has passed. So when we talk about what makes a man unforgettable, it's not just grand gestures or charm, it's the quiet power of calm under fire. That's what imprints itself in her mind. She remembers not just what you said, but how you stood, steady, unshaken, strong. Seneca said it best: "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself. Calm strength is proof. Proof that you've faced challenges and mastered yourself in the process. Proof that your power doesn't need to be shouted, it's already known. If you've ever held your ground calmly while the world tried to shake you, write this in the comments. I stay calm. And don't go anywhere, because what comes next takes this strength even further. It's not just about being calm, it's about how that calmness sets the frame she has to live inside. Number 9. The exit she never forgets. There's something powerful about the way a man leaves. Not storming out, not slamming doors, but walking away with calm certainty. Women never forget that kind of exit, because it leaves them replaying the moment in their mind over and over. It's not the goodbye itself, it's the message behind it. You are not afraid to walk away when your values are crossed. Take Robert, 52, and Melissa, 49. They had been dating for a while, but Melissa had a habit of testing limits, cancelling plans at the last minute, flirting a little too much when they were out together. Robert never begged, never accused, and never lost his cool. One evening after another, "I'm too busy tonight" text, he responded with a simple, "That's fine, I'll take my time elsewhere." He didn't argue, didn't chase, he just left the situation. Days later, Melissa admitted she couldn't stop thinking about him, not because of what he said, but because of what he didn't say. His calm exit carried more weight than hours of pleading ever could. This is what makes an exit unforgettable. It communicates strength, boundaries, and self-respect. Most men are terrified to walk away, fearing it will end the connection. But here's the truth. Walking away doesn't end attraction, it often intensifies it, because it shows you're not dependent on her approval. You don't stay at any cost, and that makes you stand out. Psychology has proven that scarcity increases value. When you leave instead of clinging, you create scarcity. She feels the sudden absence, and in that silence, her mind fills in the gaps. Was she too careless? Did she push too far? Why didn't he fight to stay? That loop runs in her head because your exit was controlled, not emotional. And here's the part rooted in Stoicism. Epictetus once said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." Your decision to walk away embodies that. You can't control her behavior, but you control yourself. By choosing calm departure over drama, you claim your freedom, and that freedom makes you unforgettable. Melissa later told Robert she respected him more after that moment. Not because she wanted him to leave, but because his exit proved he lived by his own standards. That's the kind of memory women carry. They may forget arguments, they may forget sweet words, but they never forget the time a man showed them he could walk away with dignity. And let's be clear, this isn't about manipulation. It's not about leaving to create games. It's about staying true to yourself and exiting situations that no longer align with your values. When you do that, you teach her something powerful. Your presence is valuable, and your absence is even more noticeable. So if you've ever walked away calmly, not out of anger but out of self-respect, and it changed the way someone treated you, share it in the comments with these words. I walk strong, and you'll want to stick around, because the next part takes this idea to another level. It's not just about leaving, it's about how your silence after the exit grows into something she can't escape. Number 10. The Stoic frame she keeps chasing. When everything is said and done, what women remember most isn't a single gesture, a moment of silence, or even the exit you made. What lingers in their mind is the frame you lived by, the steady, unshakable way you carried yourself through every interaction. This frame is what Stoics called living in alignment with virtue, and once a woman experiences it, she never forgets. The Stoic frame is about more than just being calm under pressure or walking away with dignity. It's about a consistent way of being. You don't bend every time someone pushes. You don't chase every time someone pulls away. You move through life on your own terms, guided by self-respect, discipline, and clarity. And that consistency creates something powerful in her mind, desire mixed with respect. Most men flip-flop. They act confident until they're tested, then collapse into neediness. They talk about standards, but compromise as soon as they feel attraction slipping away. That's why women forget them. They blend into the background of forgettable experiences. But the man who holds a stoic frame shows a rare kind of discipline. He communicates without words, "I am who I am," with or without your approval. That kind of energy is impossible to ignore. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." This is the essence of the Stoic frame. It's not about speeches or promises, it's about action. The way you carry yourself in public, the way you hold your silence, the way you walk away. When it's time, all of these moments add up to something bigger than any one interaction. They create a frame she can see, feel, and respond to. And here's the paradox. The more you live by that frame, the less you need her validation. Yet the less you need it, the more she craves yours. She keeps chasing not because you're playing games, but because your presence represents stability in a world full of inconsistency. You become the standard she measures other men against. Think about it like this. A picture frame doesn't change depending on the artwork inside. It holds steady, giving structure and meaning to what's placed within it. The Stoic frame works the same way. Whatever emotions she brings, joy, jealousy, curiosity, or even anger, you remain steady. Your energy frames the interaction, and that steadiness is unforgettable. What women crave isn't chaos. It's not the man who explodes with passion one moment and collapses the next. It's the man whose fire burns slow, steady, and controlled. That's what makes her lean in, test you, and return again and again. Because deep down, she's not just drawn to desire, she's drawn to safety, certainty, and a man who knows who he island. Psychologists call this emotional grounding. When someone feels grounded around you, they relax, but they also pay attention. You become the rare person they associate with clarity instead of confusion. That imprint lasts long after conversations fade, and this is why the Stoic frame is the ultimate thing she chases. It doesn't fade with time, because it's not built on surface-level charm or temporary tactics. It's built on principles, on a man's choice to live by values, not reactions. That kind of consistency is rare, and because it's rare, it's unforgettable. So, when you think about what women never forget, it's not the dramatic gestures, the clever lines, or even the physical attraction. It's the way you stood your ground, calmly, with respect for yourself. It's the frame you lived in, day after day, moment after moment. That's what she remembers. That's what she keeps chasing even when you're no longer there. And that's the truth. Women never forget a man who lives by his own standards. Not the loudest man, not the most dramatic one, but the one who carries himself with calm, confidence, and discipline. That's the kind of presence that lingers in her mind long after you're gone. If you found value in this video, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Thank you for spending your time with me today, and I'll see you again tomorrow.